Hello Whovians and welcome to my latest Doctor Who review, where today I review City of Death. Cue that music. Woo! Sorry, I had to groove to that because honestly the music in this story is phenomenal. I'll talk more about it later, but I just had to share that with you. Right, City of Death. This is the second story in season 17 of Doctor Who, Tom Baker's 6th season. And basically, the plot is as follows. While taking in the sights of Paris in 1979, the Doctor and Romana sense that someone is tampering with time. Who is the mysterious Count Scarlione? Why does he seem to have counterparts scattered through time? And just how many copies of the Mona Lisa did Leonardo da Vinci paint? There we go, that is the basic premise of this story. Well, what can I say? City of Death. Believe the hype, baby. I had to just toast this story because, wow. Oh, what a magnificent Doctor Who story. And this is not a sarcastic clap. This is a proper round of applause. Woo! Thank goodness for that. We actually have a story that is a classic. Yeah, I can see why this story is so highly regarded. Before I go on, I just want to give a quick shout out to a YouTuber, someone called Matthew Moir. That's M-O-I-R, not to be confused with the other Matthew, who is M-U-I-R. So Matthew M-O-I-R, who's a friend of my friend Nicholas Payne. Apparently this is his favourite classic story, so good for him. I just thought I'd give a quick mention to him by request of Nick. So I hope that's alright. Anyway, this story is phenomenal. I can see why people love it, and Graham Williams really just got it right here. I mean, the scope of this story is incredible. The fact that this was the first story to be filmed overseas, that in itself is an accomplishment, but the story comes together just really well. The script is fantastic for this story, as Christopher Eccleston would say. Fantastic. But I think everyone is brilliant here, and this is probably the best cast you are ever going to see in Classic Who. You have obviously Tom Baker and Lalla Ward. Julian Glover plays Scarlione, or Scaroff, I think that's his name. Catherine Schell is in this as the Countess. Tom Chadbourne as Duggan, and, you know, many more. And even John Cleese makes a cameo. So there are just so many great cast members. And it's just brilliant. First of all, let's talk about the villain himself. Scarlione, or Scaroff, whatever his name is, played by Julian Glover. He is really good. He is a great villain. He was actually in the previous William Hartnell story, The Crusade. However, I think he's much better here. I think the villain is written better. The Count is the last Jaggeroth, and I think the design of the Jaggeroth is really good. I really like the design of him. He's got this green head, which it almost looks like Medusa's head, you know, like from ancient Greek mythology, you know, like Medusa has got all like snakes or something, or it's like he's been manifested. It's like a ball of seaweed on the top of his head with one eye poking out, and it looks pretty damn scary. There's a moment at the end of part 1 when he literally rips his mask off to reveal it, and it is quite freaky, I must say. I just really like the story. There's just such imagination with the story, like how they're discovering the mystery behind the amount of Mona Lisas there are, and why the Count is doing what he's doing how he's got many versions of himself scattered across time, and how he's trying to rebuild what he's lost. And I think that's really interesting. But the cast really sell it for me. Obviously, Julian Glover, I've talked about him. Catherine Schell as the Countess, she's really good. She's great in this story, and I like that when her character realizes who she's actually married to. Things get more than a little dicey, I'll say that. I mean, there's a scene when she points a gun at him and she's confronting him, and she's like, "Who are you?" You know, and all of that, and she's doing all that, which is quite fun. Not for her, obviously, but it's a great fun to watch as a viewer. There's a lot of tension here. I like the character of Duggan. Yes, Tom Chadbourne as Duggan. Yeah, he's kind of there is the implication that he's somewhat dim. He's a bit of a dim like agent, or detective or whatever, because he basically likes to use his fists. He's more of a, you know, action man. He's more of a go-getter, take charge kind of guy. He doesn't really use his brain. I mean, well, that's the implication anyway. But he's a nice character, and the rapport he has with the Doctor and Romana is fantastic. And I quite like him as a character. I think he's amusing. The professor, I believe his name is Kerensky. If I've got that wrong, I apologise. Kerensky, played by David Graham, he's very good. How he's being manipulated and forced to work against his will by the Count to do what is required. And then there's that scene with the chicken. I'll say no more. Then there's Herman, the butler. Herman's basically just a brute. There's you know, there's nothing else to him. He's just a brute, but he plays his part well. And then there's the soldier, when the Doctor goes back in time to the time of Leonardo da Vinci, and then he meets that soldier, and then he sees the other version of the Count, which is really interesting. There's just so much that goes on in this story, but also the first part of this story, they take the time to show Paris. They show it off, literally. The Doctor and Romana are just touring Paris, and why not? You know, you've paid the budget to go to this location, so why not? And it looks beautiful on screen. It really just looks beautiful. And, you know, the plot kind of reminds me of a Pink Panther movie, like with Peter Sellers. I mean, it doesn't have the comedy of those movies, obviously, but I mean, even though the story is funny, but in terms of like the fact that someone wants to steal like a precious artifact, in the Pink Panther's case, like a diamond, but in this case, it's the Mona Lisa. I find that really gripping. It's a really gripping story, even though you could consider it to be somewhat of a talky story, but I actually don't mind. I think the pacing flies by at 4 parts. I think it really does. I mean, my only criticism perhaps would be maybe some of the effects when we get to the planet of the Jaggeroth. I do think some of the effects are a little bit untidy, but that's not anything major to complain about. And perhaps it could be argued that the climax of this story is a little abrupt. It does end a bit quickly when, you know, Duggan has to do is punch the Count, and then he just disappears. That's it. And then his little spaceship pod thing blows up, and that's it. Yeah, maybe we could have used a bit more tension in the climax, but you know what? It's not anything major. It does not affect my enjoyment of this story. This is probably Dudley Simpson's best music, which is why I played it for you at the beginning. Production design, well, I can't really speak for that because most of the story is on location, but the sets that we do have are very impressive, like the Count's house and all of that. It's really good. Okay, the director, Michael Hayes. Absolutely brilliant job. Absolutely brilliant job. The writers who are credited, David Agnew, Douglas Adams, they both did a good job. Yeah, they did a very good job. It flows very consistently. And I just like seeing Paris. It's nice to go somewhere else for a change. It feels very refreshing. And that's what is phenomenal about this story. And the story itself is just really interesting. It is indeed a Doctor Who classic. Believe the hype. If you haven't seen it, see it, because it's really good. And this is my probably so far my favourite story of the Graham Williams era. I mean, I've still got to see the rest of this season, and then Graham Williams is gone, but still, what a great way to continue Tom Baker's 6th season. And yes, it is better than Destiny of the Daleks, and I know that story gets a bit of a mixed response, but yeah, I can totally see why this would be a lot of people's favourite Tom Baker story. This is definitely up there. I wouldn't say it's my favourite Tom Baker story, but it is very much high up there. I would rank it very highly. And also, I forgot to mention, Tom Baker himself. How could I forget? Tom Baker himself is delightful in this story. There's that wonderful scene when he goes into the house, and he's saying, Countess, you're a lovely woman. You probably are, or something like that. And he's charming his way, and he's just being a general nuisance to her. And he's generally quite witty and funny. And I really like the rapport he has with Romana. I think Lalla Ward as Romana, she's great in this story. She's probably better in this story than she was in Destiny of the Daleks. She gets just as much to do. And I think you can see there's the chemistry between her and Baker. And it's not hard to see why Tom fell for her. It's really not hard to see that. But yeah, I mean, to kind of wrap it up, I mean, my minor quibbles of the story do not stop me from giving this story a 10 out of 10. I know this hasn't been, you know, I know I haven't given a 10 out of 10 rating for quite some time, so this is quite refreshing, but look guys, I can't give everything a 10 out of 10. I judge the stories as fairly as I can. I don't sugarcoat things. I just give my honest, blunt opinion. Yes, I mean, the fact is I was more impressed in the Philip Hinchcliffe era than I have been in the Graham Williams era, but this story has definitely made me appreciate the Graham Williams era a lot more. And I'm very glad to give this story perfect marks. So, there we go. But is there anyone who doesn't like this story? I would like to know down below why some people may not like this story. But, alas, I really liked it. And, yeah, again, shout out to Matthew Moir. I don't know how you say it. Matthew Moir? M-O-I-R. Matthew M-O-I-R. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching this review, and please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of this story, and stay tuned next time when we review The Creature from the Pit. So, until next time, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.